Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. I am your host, Dr. Will. So, nice Saturday morning. Get your coffee, or in my case, my tea, via Keurig. Now, Keurig, if you want to advertise on the show, we can do this. Um, I'm just trying to. We're doing this show because I met Carlie on Twitter, and all of this energy and knowledge was just contagious. And I said, okay, we got to get this together and put a show together. And she said, I got some great colleagues. Let's do this. And we got together and said, let's talk about new teachers. And I said, cool. And so we're going to share their voices this morning. And so we're going to make this happen. So today with us this morning, we actually have Carlie Stigler and we have Anna Zinfanig. Did I say that right?
Yep, that's good.
And I mess up names all the time, and which my last name is Deanport, and people look at my last name, they go, and I should be used to it by now. I should work harder at getting people's names right, but I just jack them up almost every time I get a chance to. So before we get into this show, and people may wonder who you are, okay, Anna, introduce yourself.
Oh, I have to go first. Okay. Well, I'm Anna. I'm a first-year teacher in Waukesha. We have multi-age classrooms, 2-year multi-age, so I'm the second, third grade special ed teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good?
Hey, whatever you want. Carlie.
Hi, I am Carlie Stigler. I teach at Fond du Lac STEM Academy in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and I am a 3rd, 4th, and 5th multi-age teacher, general ed teacher.
Wow, it's a lot of multi-age going over in your neck of the woods. Mm-hmm. So let's just get into it. Now, there are a number of educational theories out there to choose from, and when anyone gets to the educational field, especially if you go through some sort of ed program, you are given these theories and you start to kind of look at them and negotiate them and see which ones you're going to build your practice upon. I myself, I love John Dewey. That is my boy. When you are once you have sort of said, these are the theories I like, and you actually start working, you're in the classroom, what have been your experiences with how theory actually relates to actual practice? Carlie?
That is a great question. So I think Anna and I went to the same university at Carroll University in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and we spent a lot of time just throughout all of our coursework really talking about theory and what is best practice and what are theories that relate to best practice. And so as the course of our 4-year program, we've kind of been really ingrained in theory and then connecting that with our philosophy and how we hope to express that as a teacher in the classroom. And I think going out right from the bat, it's a huge gap going from theory to practice. Like, you have all of this wonderful knowledge and you truly believe in it and it's who you are as an educator, and then when you get into the classroom, it doesn't always work out, and you have to kind of be flexible and acknowledge that although you might not be really teaching in the way that fits to your philosophy and your theories, to me, I know that I have that knowledge, and I know that one day when I have more experience, I can always get back to my theory. And I think that, like you mentioned, Dewey and Vygotsky are 2 of my favorites, and I think that they allow students to have voice and choice. And when you're in the classroom first year, students it's different than what is the traditional school with those theories, and you have to allow time for students to kind of unlearn to be able to relearn according to what we know is best practice and best teaching in those best theories. So, and some of that is just hard to do without experience. So as a first-year teacher, it's a give and take, ebb and flow, I think, of practicing in theory and how that plays out.
Anna?
Well, I would agree with Carlie. I would say this is like the $1,000,000 question, and how to actually live it and breathe it is tricky, and it's really, really hard your first year. And I would say what I've been trying to do to meet my theory in my practice is just to keep my big two things that I truly believe in, which is inclusion and then not behavior modification. I try to stay away far, far from that. But it's still, those are two simple things, and it's still really, really hard to maintain and keep up and make sure you're doing it in the best practice. And I don't know, I guess I don't know if I do it all the time, and I don't know. I just feel like that's the trickiest, and it's my background knowledge, and it's truly what I believe in, and I try to stick to it. But with everything else in education, those are the first things to go, is the theory that builds best practice. We throw that out the window the minute we have SLOs to do and PDPs to do and everything else that bogs down what we're doing to make sure we're doing those best practices. And I think best practice is kind of just something we throw out there, and I truly believe that best practice looks different for each individual student. So I don't look at my kids as a whole. I look at them as individuals, and what does best practice look like for them, which is also really hard to maintain. Granted, I only have 7 kids on my caseload, but it's a juggle. So.
Awesome. So
Anna, to go off Anna what you said, I love that you said inclusion and what was your other 2 things?
Inclusion and stay far away from behavior mod.
I love that you said they're 2 simple things, and it made me laugh because, like, to us it's so simple, but in the whole system of education, we obviously haven't figured it out yet. So it's not simple, but like to us, and I think people who are just graduating, who have kind of this new, like, this is how they've gone to school, this is what we've learned. It's simple, but in the whole grand scheme, it's really not.
And I guess what I mean by simple is the theory is simple, but the practice is so complicated, and that's where we get lost and we don't stick to it. And then add in all these other things we have to do as teachers, and we lose it.
Yeah, and it is true what you said. It's the first thing to go out the window. That was a really good point to make. Yeah.
Okay, so one day you're in school. The next, you are standing in a classroom in front of 20 students. How did your education program prepare you for the realities of teaching in the classroom, and what was your greatest takeaway from your program? Anna.
Ooh. I guess my biggest takeaway, and I've been trying to reflect on this, is just to find somebody within the school that you can reflect with. And I think that's key, and that's huge for new teachers, because you put in long hours, you don't feel like you're the teacher you're supposed to be or want to be or living up to be, that you really need to find that one person that you can relate to and really reflect on that, and then have them also motivate you through that reflection. I guess that's my biggest takeaway and would be my biggest advice too.
Carlie?
Can you ask the question one more time?
Basically, how did your teacher education program prepare you for the realities of teaching in the classroom, and what was your greatest takeaway from your program?
So the first part, the preparation part, Anna and I were in a residency program, so we were able to student teach for a whole year, and we were hired on in our school district as like staff, so we got to do all the professional development that they did, and we were just seen as like another teacher in the space. So to me, that was huge. Having a whole extra semester of experience really helped me understand, like, what as a teacher am I going to experience on a daily basis from day one to the end. So that was really great in terms of preparation for me. I think takeaways are knowing that there's a lot. I think, yes, the idea of reflecting, I would go off what Anna said, whether it be with someone in your space or with other educators you find on Twitter or Voxer or any other platform you use, blogging, whatever, reflecting on your own whether it just be taking time to think or writing it out. I think that is really key. And I think just knowing that, having the understanding that, and this kind of goes back to the first question, that you are not going to be the teacher you want to be right from the gate from year one, and that it's really frustrating, but it's truth. And I think that that awareness has kind of helped me persevere through some challenges that I've faced this year.
I'd also add, just in general, that theory. You can walk away from your program having this really deep understanding of what you believe in, what's best practice, the teacher you want to be. And I think that is something you need to hold on to, even though it's not, like Carlie said, it's not going to happen in your first year. It may not even happen in the first 3 years, but that's something you can fall back on. That's your background knowledge. Those are your beliefs, and you just have to stick to them and persevere.
Okay, I like that. And see, that segues into this question. There's the teacher you thought you would be when you signed your contract. Then there's the teacher you became as the school year went on. Tell me about how you actually sort of came to terms with the teacher you are now versus the teacher you thought that you were going to be. Carlie?
Well, I don't think you ever come to terms with it, but you have to do it every day. So I think for me, just knowing that this is something I am doing for now, and maybe next month things will change, or maybe as I get more experience things will change. But I think, yeah, I'm not, like, there's like certain things I do that I don't philosophically believe in, but I know that it's just where I'm at right now as a teacher and where our class is right now as a community. So it's not anything I come to terms with, but it's just something that I know that I'll continue to work on and figure out how to make happen in the way that I would like it to happen, and have that message spread across my classroom and our school and system-wide.
Anna?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Our memories are very small.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So basically, I'm trying to figure out, or let you explain to people out there, how you have come to terms or negotiate your feelings between the teacher you thought you were going to be when you signed that contract and you're very excited, I'm going to be a teacher, yay, versus today, the teacher you are now. And
Okay.
maybe you are the teacher you thought you were going to be, and maybe you are not the teacher you thought you to be. But if you're not, how did you come to terms with who I am today versus whom I thought I was going to be day one?
I definitely don't think I'm the teacher I would want to be or live up to be. And I think that is the constant inner struggle I have daily. Yeah, and I guess what I went in after a month or two being in the school and on my own, basically, it's just what two things, I picked those two things I was going to hold on to from my philosophy and stick through them throughout the year. So I guess my mindset is, if I can do that this year, I can add more next year. What am I going to do next year to stay true to myself and who I am and want to be as a teacher, and just kind of chisel away at that. And I think for teachers, we have to have that growth mindset to say, okay, well, today I'm not the teacher I want to be or need to be, but tomorrow I could do a little bit more. Next year I can do more. I can keep growing into that teacher I want to be. And maybe, eventually it's never what you first imagine it's going to be. It could be better. So I think just keeping that growth mindset and staying reflective and thinking about what you can do to change your practice and meet those individuals in your classroom's needs to be that great teacher you want to be.
I love how when you two talk and reflect and express, how everything sort of flows into the next question. So I'm really excited about this. I am a PD junkie, right? I love PD and leadership and all those things, and delivering PD is what I do. What are your thoughts on the kind of professional development you think is relevant to you achieving your professional learning goals, Anna?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And, sometimes I love PD too. I love going to conferences and learning and growing and really coming out of it being motivated to change education and do what I wanted to do when I got into the profession, and create that change. But I think that's tricky because what districts provide us with is PD that just, it doesn't seem to fit you as a teacher or what your kids need. Because then again, it's this broad PD. It's, okay, literacy PD. Oh, what does that mean for each teacher? Like, I'm a special ed teacher, so literacy, yeah, I definitely need it. I use it in everyday practice, obviously. But I guess what more can we do than just, provide teachers with this broad PD, but be more specific to, maybe the practice and how that can look for individuals, how that can look in a personalized learning environment. I think that we get, at least the PDs I've been to this past year, I feel exhausted coming out of them just because it's not something that I see as value or as purposeful for the students I am teaching. And will be teaching next year because it's multi-age. So it's a struggle because what am I going to use from it? What am I getting out of it? And how is this best practice for these students? I guess when we look at PDs for teachers, we need to also think about how that can be personalized for each educator. I guess is what I'm trying to get out in a roundabout way.
Mm-hmm. Carlie?
Yeah, and to add on what Anna said, I think that when we think about personalizing, we as educators also need to take it upon ourselves to do that. And so, like what we're doing here, having dialogue about education on a Saturday morning. Anytime you talk about your passion in your craft, you're going to grow, and and with others. Oh my, it's dying. I have 10% left. Okay. Well, wait, I just need to plug my iPad in because it's dying. I'm really sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at intermission.
It'll take 2 seconds.
A live show, everyone.
Okay, so all the really great qualities about educators, about being like prepared and organized, and can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Punctual, I do not possess. So this is an example of my podcast that I'm not very prepared and organized. But anyways, we are good to go. Back to what I was saying, taking upon ourselves to kind of find professional development. So like for me, what works really well was Twitter initially, and I still love Twitter. And then I got into Voxer, and I got into a really great group of people from all over the U.S., and which has been fantastic. And then recently, I've just been starting to get into like podcasts. So and I love this. So I learned so much from other people, and I think that is what true PD is. It's not something that someone is telling you have to go do because you work at this school in this district. It's who are you as an educator, and what are your passions within your craft, and how are you going to continue to learn on that. And I think as in terms of district PD, I kind of take that with a grain of salt. And even like the school I work at it's a charter school in our district, so some of the things that we don't do some of the things that the other schools do, and the other schools don't do some things that we do. So like there are some things that just don't apply to me because of the school that I'm at. But I think no matter what, it's still something that relates to education, and I mean, I just kind of take it with a grain of salt and know that there are other ways that I can continue to learn and grow outside of what the district is providing.
Awesome. Now, I have something to take, so you can take back to your districts that we actually do in our district. that will help your school when you say, how do we individualize professional development for teachers? What we have, and another instructional technologist in our district created, he was having this epiphany as he was trying to book an appointment for a dentist. We actually have a booking site where teachers can look at a list of, let's say, whether it be Kahooted, Google Apps, MacBook Pro, Chromebook, etc. They can look through the list of trainings that we offer. They can then choose the person to deliver that training. They can choose the date and time they want that training to be used. And then there's a box to where they can say, it says additional participants, but in that box they can say, this is for third grade, and we're looking, how can Chromebooks be used in a third grade classroom for X, Y, and Z. And so we know how to then personalize that training for them. And it was so successful and so well received by the principals that district content specialists, special ed people, social workers, people who deal with dyslexia trainings and stuff, they actually got involved, and they're on the booking site now. So a teacher who wants to learn more about TST and that, they can book those trainings. So that's something you can take back to your district to say, create a booking site, and then teachers can now book the trainings that they want for themselves.
That kind of reminds me of those unconferences Carlie and I have gone to. A little bit.
And it's very cool. And I quite honestly prefer those than that training when that principal calls me in, and I'm seeing everybody. I'm there all day, seeing every teacher as they come in during their planning period, because sometimes you do see that teacher grading papers, or you do see those teachers in the back, having that chit chat because they don't find it relevant to them. So, okay, all right. So, and hopefully I'm going to get some good answers from you on this one. All right. Not that you've been great already, but I'm feeling this one. What does collaboration amongst teachers mean to you? And how does one create a culture of where the expectation is for teachers to share and curate materials and to share best practices? Carlie.
Collaboration, what does it look like amongst teachers? So I think it's just continuous conversations and reflection, dialogue about what we're noticing in our space and where we want it to go. I know at my school we share. We're a smaller school, and we have a different. Well, so we share all of our students. So at some point in the day, like, we're working with all of our students, and we're a project-based learning school too. So that time in the afternoon is very open, where we're kind of working with different groups of kids. And so when that is just how things go when you're sharing students, you have to collaborate, because like kids have what we call our mentor class, so essentially kind of like your homeroom that you check in with at the beginning of a day and the end of the day. But then for math or literacy or project time, you're working with a different group of kids. So when you have that, is just, this is how our system is, you have to collaborate. And it's really nice. I couldn't imagine, especially as a first-year teacher, but as a teacher just in general, not collaborating and not talking with the teachers who are in my space and bouncing ideas off and getting help from one another and growing together as a team. So I think within a space, it's just always those constant conversations, and not just when things are going well, but having those tough conversations. Like, I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't agree, and this is my thinking. And I think as a first-year teacher, it's been really valuable in terms of, like, going back to that first question, your theory, when you have maybe like half the team agrees on something and you don't agree, and I'm saying this goes directly against my theory or my beliefs as an educator, and I have my opportunity to voice my thinking, and I think that helps me get through, like, when we decide to do something that goes against my philosophy. As long as I feel like I can have my voice heard, I know at least I tried, and for now this is how it is. And so I think just, yes.
Anna?
Well, collaboration to me, I think, just means everything. It's the soul of inclusion, of best practice. It's teachers getting together and doing what we do best and talking about kids and planning for them and thinking about them as a whole child. However, I don't feel like that happens in my school right now, or at least the team I'm with right now. Our classrooms are set up, so I'm in 2 rooms. They're set up like here's one classroom, here's another classroom. In the middle is a garage door. Well, that garage door is always closed. So I think that kind of says it right there that the collaboration is pretty minimal, and I think it really affects how we teach kids. If we can't collaborate as teachers, how are we supposed to collaborate with kids? And it's also, I think, a struggle for trying to be inclusive and include all kids and what's best for all kids if we're not taking the time to do that as a team. We also specialize, which I think kind of gets in the way of that collaboration because one person's an expert in literacy and the other person's an expert in math. So it just kind of gives that, it kind of presents itself as, well, we're 2 different subjects, therefore we don't really, collaborate together or cohesively. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think some of those ideas and theories of specializing in subjects because the teacher can't be an expert in all subjects, which I understand and I get. However, I think it takes away the bigger picture of that collaboration districts and society and teachers need to be good quality teachers and provide students with what they need.
Okay. So, as new teachers, what are some of the generational differences you've noticed between you and some of the more seasoned professionals? Anna.
Well, I guess to build off the last question, collaboration. I don't know if it's a season thing or if it's just what has happened through how our system's set up and is trying to change. But I'd say that's a big thing, as well as the mindset. I've noticed, at least, or I guess I'm inferencing that the mindset is once kids are labeled or become special ed, that's special ed's problem. So I don't see a lot of interaction from the general ed teachers with my students when there are students and working with them. Like there's minimum, and I think that's a seasoned theory, that's a seasoned practice, and that's not where we should be. We should be moving forward with that and looking at all kids as individuals. And I think the big framework of special ed as being, outside of the room, those kids are their students, not mine, is something we need to work on. And collaboration is a big piece of that. So, I don't know. Does that answer the question? What was the question?
Yes.
The generational differences between you and I say seasoned, but you say veteran teachers. But that, yeah. I mean, you did you say what you wanted to? I mean, you said what you want. I mean, do you feel what you said? I mean,
I guess, yeah. I think I said what I believe, as well as just the theory of personalized learning and what that looks like in the classroom, and the idea of the role the teacher is supposed to play in that. I think that's a big thing that Carlie and I both walked out of our program knowing deeply and understanding and ready and trying to embrace that and do that as teachers. But I think a lot of teachers who have not just walked out of schooling, where this is the big thing, the big talk about, are still struggling with and don't really understand the role the teacher is supposed to play.
Excellent. Carlie?
To add on what Anna was saying at the end, I think to me the biggest difference between recent graduates and veteran teachers is just what we learn when we went to school. So like this now seems to be big burst for personalized learning or individualized learning, whatever, or differentiation on that spectrum, those three separate concepts, and growth mindset and inclusion. So this talk about knowing that education needs to change. Like all of those concepts are how we learned and what we learned. I think that veteran teachers, that's not what they were learning in their program. They've learned it through over time as our system has changed. And so for us, this is what we know. This is all we know. The only reason we know the more traditional aspect is because that's how we went to school ourselves. Mm-hmm. So to me, like it seems like it's a big thing, these concepts for veteran teachers, but for us, this is who we are as educators, and this is what we believe in, and this is what we've learned. And I think that is a big tribute to our university, as well as, and I think universities in general are now like really focusing on this is what we want our teachers to leave with and understand and believe in value as an educator.
And if I could just add, I think the hardest part too with us walking out and knowing this and breathing and ready to take it on, that personalized learning, is you also need to remember that veteran teachers, just like students, it takes longer to unlearn something than it is to learn something. So we walked out of the program knowing this because we've spent 4 or more years researching it, learning in a deeper sense, and these teachers have been teaching not necessarily in one way, but growing as teachers for years and still holding true to their philosophies. And you can't blame them, and you have to, admire that too, because that's what we're kind of talking about, is holding on to that theory and growing within that theory. And at the time, their theory was best practice. So it's just remembering that we walked out of the program knowing this, and it takes longer to unlearn what they've been doing, or,
We're cool. Now, we're all connected educators, okay? We're on Twitter, we're on Google Plus, and we come across a number of resources and blog posts celebrating the virtue of ed tech. Excuse me. From your experiences, what are your views on technology, and how do you see technology changing the way teachers teach and students learn? Carlie.
I have to admit, in my student teaching, so last year, I didn't really get like this whole, I was like, technology, like, yeah, cool, it's great. Why is everybody like, we have Chromebooks, we have iPads, and we have iPods. Like, I didn't really understand like the big excitement about it, because it didn't seem to change the way in which we were thinking or teaching, until I got into a space that was actually using technology to change the way that students and teachers were thinking and teaching and interacting together. And then I came across Bill Ferretti. He's on Twitter. I don't know if that's his last name, but his handle is @PlugUsIn, and he creates like diagrams of different concepts in education. And I came across his chart of like the right thing to do with technology and wrong things to do, and like and I don't know if those are the exact headings, but like on the wrong thing to do side was create prezzies and Google Docs, and then like on the right side it was find answers to your own questions, connect, innovate, make change, start conversations. And that to me is what technology can allow us to do, and we wouldn't be able to do those things to the extent without technology. So I think the device that you have has no significance, and it's what you do with that device which can change how we structure our system of education. So, yes, I think I answered the question.
Anna?
Small memory.
I would agree with Carlie 100% wholeheartedly, but I would also add that, I guess, in this first year working with students who are nonverbal, who have, cognitive delays and physically handicapped can't write, things like that. That technology is way more than just an iPad. It's a form for students to communicate, to participate, to learn what they need to learn. And we're a one-to-one school, and I guess I just don't see that with the whole population. With my students, I try to embed it in and make it as I know as what Carlie explained. But it's tricky because first year teacher, all those excuses, right? But it's also we also have to remember what technology is. It isn't just like iPads and computers and whatever. It's also communication tools and things to help kids explain what they know in the best way they can. So I think technology is key to inclusion. It's key to personalized learning. It's key to collaboration. I think we need to find and really hone in on more ways to nurture that in our everyday practice and with kids.
Now, this question is relevant to any professional who, you graduate from college. I mean, if we go typical student, 20, 21 years old, and you're young, and you're barely coming out of the lifestyle of it's Thursday night, going to the club at night, woo, and now you got this full-time job, right? And going out to 3 in the morning and got to be at school at 7 or 7:30. That's not a good thing to do. But being a new teacher and being thrust into that professional life, which I'm assuming is a different schedule, how do you balance home and work life? And is the demands of work what you expected? Anna.
I'd say I'm awful at it. I have no balance whatsoever. It's really, really hard, and I guess it's a bigger challenge than I thought it would be coming out of even a year of residency. It's not the same balance or, juggling act, I guess. I try to leave my work at work. I have a little boy, so when I come home, I want to be mommy. I want to be with my family. But as a teacher, the demands are you work, 12 hours in one day. You do a week's worth of work, and it's just, woo! I'm having trouble managing it and staying positive and trying to be a mom and, juggle all my different hats and still try to be true to who I am as a teacher. I mean, I think that's what really bogs me down too is just, in one day there's only so much you can do, and then try to leave it at school and come home. It's still, you're thinking about it constantly. I wake up in the morning and I check my email immediately. So I have no advice. I am the worst at balancing it. Maybe Carlie has some better ideas.
Not at all. I do think the residency was helpful in knowing just how you feel at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think being in a school for an actual year was helpful. My balance is not that great either. And I think when it really sunk in, my grandpa was in the hospital a few months ago for an extended time. And I would go and visit him, and my aunt, who I hadn't seen in years, flew in from Alabama. A cousin who I haven't seen in years flew in from Colorado. And all I was thinking about, I have these papers to grade, I have these kids' projects to share resources to, and then everyone's just, and these people I haven't seen in a long time, and family members, and then my grandpa in his sickness, and I was like, this is not okay. So I think that was a big reality check for me a few months ago. I can't, there's just got to be a point where you stop, and it's not that I was choosing to think about these things, it's just our job is 24/7, and if you don't choose to stop thinking about it, it's just going to flood your every second of your every day. So I think just the awareness and then choosing, like, you got to stop. And
Yeah.
you might not be done, and you probably have a million things to do, but at some point, at some time throughout your week, you just have to stop. And you have to be okay with that.
And I had advice from my special ed coordinator way back at the beginning, and now I'm remembering it, of course, now in April, that she's just telling me all these different ways. Like, there's some teachers that come in at like 5 a.m. and they leave right away at the end of the school day. And then there's other teachers, you know, who come in as early as they do but stay till 7. But you know what? No matter what, it gets done. No matter how often you're in here, or if you work from home, or if you do this, it gets done. So don't, like, you know, get overwhelmed with how much you have to do. Just do what you can and go from there.
Woo! Now that was an Oprah moment right there. That was nice. Last question before we get you out of here. What are your recommendations for new teachers, and what was the best advice you were given? Carlie?
Advice for new teachers. I would say don't be afraid to share your thinking and have your voice heard. I think it's easy to say, well, I'm a first-year teacher. I don't know this, and this yet, and there's other teachers who have more experience, so therefore they know more. And I think that's just a classic continuum of thinking instead of having, I guess, a growth mindset thinking. And to me, I just keep reminding myself to just make sure, and it's actually an easy thing for me because I never stop talking and I can't not share thinking. So for me, it's not a problem. I actually had to tone it down a little bit and say, like, Carlie, enough is enough. You can't keep challenging everything. But I think that it's really important to have your thinking heard, share your thinking, collaborate, reflect, really figure out if you don't know yet who you are as a teacher, where you want to go, and find ways to not only connect with people in your building. I mean, that's where it needs to start and continue. But I think you can't just keep what you know or what you don't know inside your building with the teachers that you work with. You have to, in our day and age, with the technology that we have and the power that it gives us, we have to connect outward. So find a platform that works for you. Get out there and have your message heard. Best piece of advice? I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe I'll think of something after Anna talks. So I'll let Anna go now.
Great. I guess everything Carlie said, because she said a million things. To add on to that, just, you know, ask a million questions, and sometimes just do it and ask for forgiveness later because you're new. And you can just pull that card for your first year as I'm new, so, you know, I did it this way. And just, you know, stay true to who you are as a teacher and your philosophy, and pick just a few things that you want to do and accomplish in the year that's part of your theory, and practice that. As well as finding at least one person in the building that you connect with, that you can openly talk to and reflect with. I think that's big as well. Yeah, and then just trust the process, I guess. Just don't give up so easy on things. Just trust it. Let it work out its course out, and, you know, it might work out.
One of our professors just has a lot of these really great one-liners that are fantastic pieces of advice. So trust the process is one of them. Go slow to go fast.
Yep, that's a good one.
It's always a growth opportunity. There's so many, and they're all great advice. And she would say them all the time, but I never, like, yeah, go slow to go fast. I never knew what it meant until I actually was living it in the classroom. So at the moment when she was saying it, it seemed like zero relevance. And then as soon as, like, you have this moment that relates to any of those one-liners that she would say, it's like, this is so powerful. It's so true and so perfectly connects to our philosophy as educators.
I definitely agree with that, Carlie, because the big one, trust the process and go slow to go fast. I had a student at the beginning of the year who did nothing but scream in the classroom, and just giving him that time and getting him comfortable to routines and other kids. And he now initiates games with kids. He's outside at recess. He has friends, and it's just, you don't see it at first because you're in it and you're, oh my God, this kid won't stop screaming and like I don't know what to do, but trust the process and just it works out. And it did. I don't know if it works out every time, but I think that's one big advice is just to trust the process and trust yourself as a teacher. Like you went to school for 4 years, you have background knowledge, you can do what you can do,
Awesome, awesome. You two have been so awesome sauce. Fantastic. And I would like to have you back because one thread you hit on was personalized learning. And I've done a couple of podcasts on personalized learning, and I would like to have you two back to talk about personalized learning if that is something you're interested in doing.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. All right, folks. Well, thank you for watching the show, either now or in the future. Be on the lookout for the next podcast next Saturday. We will be talking to the Weird Teacher about how do you become a published author.
Ooh.
So we're going to be doing that. It's going to be awesome. And I'm going to chill and enjoy my weekend. And I hope the rest of you will watch this. Enjoy your weekend. It's a podcast. You can play it while you're at the beach or whatever. So thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate you. It's been a blast. Time just went by. And I wish you well.
Thank you, Elle.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.